You're with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
Let's Walk the Talk. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7 and 106 FM.
Minutes after 9 o'clock. Sanbonani, bonjour, good morning, dumelang, goeiemorgen. Welcome to the Clement Manyathela Show. Thank you for being with us here on 702. I hope you're going to have a wonderful, wonderful day today. So, we start with the 702 open line, as always, on 011-883-0702. The WhatsApp line is 072-702-1702. What did you think of the testimony of Osullivan yesterday? It started dramatically and ended dramatically. It started dramatically because he had no-go areas. He didn't want to be asked questions beyond 1990. It ended on a dramatic note because he threatened to withdraw last night from this ad hoc committee because he said, I'm not here to be interrogated, I'm here to also defend myself. So he was trying to argue to be given more time to just put his side of the story up and substantiate the allegations that he has made, that the people who have made allegations against him are the ones that are corrupt. I'd like to hear your thoughts from that. But yeah, yesterday he was under the spotlight in Parliament. Members of Parliament grilled him a bit on his background. They've barely scratched the surface, so we're still yet to deal with like the substance of why he is testifying at the Ad Hoc Committee. Remember, there are allegations that were made against him by a number of people. Komotso Pashlani, the Chief of Staff for Senzo Mkhunu, Cedric Nkabinde, even the KZN Provincial Commissioner, General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, who, by the way, did tell the committee that you guys must check if this guy is not even an agent. You would be surprised. Which is why yesterday members of Parliament went at length to try and understand where has he been? How did he come into this country? What is his background? And I'm glad that they did, because we've got a better picture of what we're dealing with here. So he was questioned about the senior roles that he's held at state entities, including Airports Company South Africa, and whether he was properly qualified to serve as an executive. I mean, he doesn't even have a degree or an equivalent of a degree, and yet he was serving as an executive, I think for security or head of security, if I'm not mistaken. I'll confirm that for you. But he was serving as that at AXA, a national key point. How? And I'm glad Julius Malema yesterday told the committee, let's go find that advert, that job ad, because Julius said, we want to see really if there was a requirement for a degree or not. Because do you not need at least some security clearance? In fact, the reason he stepped down from that position is because Jackie Silebi or somebody else had required that he undergo security clearance. And he himself yesterday said, I wasn't going to pass that clearance because I have worked for the British government. I've worked in counterintelligence. So that was not going to fly. So he ended up stepping down from that position. But his arrival in South Africa during the 1970s, at the height of apartheid, also came under scrutiny. Julius Malema asked him, why would he choose to travel to a country that is in deep political turmoil at the time? This is what Julius said during that interaction.
And then the only thing you're telling us is weather. You call the bodies of our people on the floor weather. Because that was what was happening at the time. People were being killed, and you wanted to come and join that kind of lifestyle of killing people. Are you not aware that people were being killed at that time when you were applying to become a citizen in South Africa?
Chairman, I only applied to become a citizen in South Africa in 1994. And I became a citizen in 1995. So it's a reality that I had not applied to become a citizen. And it's also a reality that I have not stated that I did not know what was going on in the country at the time. I knew what was going on, but I didn't know the level of detail that I later found out. Because as you spend more time in a country, you find out more. So, that's my evidence.
But in the letter you wrote, Mr. Osullivan, you spoke about the 80s and that you were just 20 and you had no idea, and we can still say maybe you were naive at that time. It can be correct that you're talking about 95. There was an interest in the 1980s. And you were interested in the weather in the 80s, and I'm saying to you, it can be correct. And worse, you didn't have to stay in South Africa to know what was happening in South Africa. There was a big anti-apartheid movement in Britain, in London. Surely you knew the release Nelson Mandela campaign.
Yeah.
Very prominent
in
Britain.
It was, in fact, the biggest ever concert, if I'm not mistaken, of the Release Mandela campaign happened in England. And this is a man who claims to be a staunch anti-racist. But hey, he was visiting this racist apartheid country on holiday and then decided, ooh, I actually want to live here. I love how things are here. Quite interesting. Which leads me to this question. Are there specific countries that you do not travel to because of the political situation in that country? Because what he was basically being asked is, how could you feel comfortable to come on holiday to a country like South Africa, or ultimately decide that actually I want to set up home here? And I wonder if you actually make those considerations. How do you decide where to visit? Do you consider the political situation in that country? I wonder. Give us a call on 011-883-0702, please. I'm interested in your thoughts. I know when I spoke to Bongani Bingwa a week ago, he told me he's got a trip coming up to Guatemala. And he has chosen that he's not going to go via the US, right? Because he's unhappy about things that are happening there. So that's a decision he's making, that I would rather go via another route to Guatemala other than via the US. So there are people who are making calls like that. There are people who are choosing, they're not even going to go to the World Cup. There are people who are choosing, I'll never go to Saudi Arabia because I don't like the situation there and the kind of laws they have that perhaps to you feels like it's a persecution. Maybe you would argue on women or whatever the case might be, or you don't like what happened to Jamal Khashoggi, right? And the involvement, allegedly, of the Saudi prince. Or maybe Iran. You don't like what's happening in Iran, the political situation on the ground. Or maybe it's Israel. Maybe you don't like Israel and what they've done in Gaza and the war in the Middle East. And you've chosen, I'm never going to visit Israel for whatever reason. I'm never going to visit Palestine. Do you consider the political situation on the ground before you either decide to stay, relocate in that country? But more prominently, I'm interested, especially when you go to visit or you're going on holiday, is that a big consideration for you? Give us a call or send us a WhatsApp voice note. But yeah, what a talented man. What has Paul Osullivan not done? Hey, he was in the military. He worked in counterintelligence. He was trained as an electrical engineer. He worked in the security services. He was a forensic investigator. He got into property development. He trained the future president of this country, Cyril Ramaphosa, as a police reservist, because that's what he became as soon as he came to South Africa. What has he not done? I'm interested to find this post from AXA that allowed him to hold this specific executive position, because he held oversight of aviation security at all 10 AXA managed airports in South Africa. How do you do that without security clearance? But also, how do you do that without like a significant qualification, like, for instance, an equivalence of a degree? So hopefully that's what comes up today as members of parliament question him. So share your thoughts with us about his testimony yesterday.
Clement Manyathela, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856
92.7
and 106 FM.
Morning, Clement. I'm actually one of the people who was disappointed with how the Ad Hoc Committee went about its duties with Paul Osullivan. I actually felt like there were a lot of delays based on things which are not related to what he was there for and what the Ad Hoc Committee is trying to achieve. Most of the questions were just useless. There's one, they spent 45 minutes arguing his affidavit. There's one MKMP who was asking him about his political conscience when he decided to immigrate to South Africa. Like, those are issues which are not related to the matter at hand. I actually expect more robust engagement at Matlanga because they will grill you there. But with the MPs, I'm so disappointed. It's a bummer of fun.
Good morning, Clement, the 702 listeners and the producers. Clement, you know, this guy has been arrogant ever since he became who he is, whatever his name is, Osullivan. He was allowed to be arrogant. He was allowed to do whatever he wants. He was allowed to disrespect people. That is us. And this is continuing. So what do we expect? We've allowed this. He's going to be infinitely arrogant and disrespectful. But also now we need to be tough on him.
Yeah, and I wonder if it's just his personality. I mean, have you heard the interviews that he does? Normally he will speak over the journalist. You must go Google an interview that he did with Sakina Kwamendo, who is on Morning Live on SABC News. And in that interview, like, he's trying to bully Sakina, who's just basically asking basic questions that any journalist would ask. And maybe that is his personality. Maybe, but I really don't have a problem with how the MPs went further down a number of years ago to understand who this man is. We don't know him. He's a forensic investigator, but what really brought him here? The fact that he's worked in counterintelligence is of interest to me. The fact that he has trained the future president of this country as a police reservist after he himself trained for just 3 months. Then he qualified to train someone like Cyril Ramaphosa and many other young people at the time. That is of interest to me. The fact that he got a job at a national key point without security clearance and apparently to be an executive where you are managing all of these airports. You somehow didn't need a degree or an equivalence of that? Very suspicious to me. General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi told the committee, you guys must ask the questions and figure out who this person is and whether he's not an agent. He did say yesterday, I am not an agent. I've never done any work looking into South Africa or even when I was here. But there are a number of things that have happened. In fact, you must go and read up about what happened between him and Jackie Silebi, because he wasn't just a corruption, the pastor who figured out this corrupt relationship between Glenn Agliotti and Jackie Silebi. There's something that also happened when he was at AXA, where Jackie Silebi actually took decisions that led to him being required to do a security clearance. And he realized at the time he's not going to pass that clearance because of his past and where he has worked before in the past. This is someone who was in British intelligence, who worked for counter intelligence. That, I think that is important. Unless you think that background is not important. This is the person who managed to have a lot of influence on some of our law enforcement agencies like IPID. I mean, the IPID head himself told us at the committee that this man used to give me quite valuable information. So we worked well together. So what was it? What was in it for him is what I'm trying to ask.
Clem, I don't know why they want to grill this Paul Osullivan. Has he not handed us Jackie Salibi and so many people on a platter? People who were beyond corruption, who stole from this country. He's very effective at what he wants to do. Maybe the committee members are afraid that they are going to be exposed. Have we not thought of that? We have such layers of corruption in this country, from the police to look at what happened at Tembisa Hospital. Even the administrators, the people who approve the payments, everyone, the buyers, it is so endemic. Then I don't blame this man for saying that his life is in danger. Quite frankly, this country is rotten to the core. Rotten.
Morning, Clement. Clement, this Paul Osullivan guy. No, man. Why is he not classified in the same group as our Brian Mkhwanazi? Because clearly this guy, I don't think even has any qualification. There's a chance at this man, Clement. And I think if he can be investigated properly, ILO is going to come out, man. That's why he loves intimidating people and bullying them around, giving them threats. They must just check him. And I think he must also go to Madanga. Because there, he won't have any authority to threaten and do all this kind of nonsense. Short Lemon.
Yes, good morning, Clemza. Good morning, Clemza. Cosmas Rodebelt. Ramaphosa is older than Paul Osullivan. I wonder how Paul Osullivan taught Ramaphosa policing issues in the military or police issues. I wonder. Paul Osullivan must be investigated. Thank you.
William, you calling us from Edenvale. What are your thoughts? Good morning.
Good morning, Clement. If you don't mind, my comment is to South Africa. South Africa, let me remind you that Paul Osullivan was instrumental in putting Radovan Krejcir behind bars. South Africa is a better place because of Paul Osullivan. The other thing South Africa is, what you aren't aware of is, an Edenvale policeman was badly beaten in 2005. So badly beaten he was declared brain dead. I, as a private individual, tried to get to the bottom of who killed Sergeant Cobus Latsky. Paul Osullivan assisted me. He was approachable, friendly, and guided me in the posters that I put up around Edenvale, laminated posters at my expense. And Paul Osullivan guided me and said, William, if we get any information, he'll investigate that story. And so that's the kind of person I know Paul Osullivan to be. Friendly, approachable, and no nonsense.
Okay, William, I'm glad you had such a that kind of experience with him, and I don't take that away from you. Just know that that's not going to be the case with everybody else. There are people that he has threatened, for instance, who may not have that same approach to the relationship that they have shared. But I take it that from you, he was very helpful. I'm sure he's helped many other people. Didn't he fund? There was revealed like he funded some cases of a specific foundation. I don't remember if it was the Ahmad Kathrada Foundation, but I'll check that quickly for you. But speaking of Radovan Krejcir, where was it? Did I read that he apparently purchased the house of Radovan Krejcir? Paul Osullivan, as you say, who was instrumental in helping get Radovan Krejcir behind bars. And I know Radovan Krejcir. I reported about him when I was a young journalist. 8 years ago, I used to drive to court a lot during his trial. So I remember that case very well. The point is, he helped get Rodovan Krejcir behind bars. And guess who bought Rodovan Krejcir's Bedford View mansion for about 15 million rand in 2015? I don't know. I just think when you are involved in getting someone arrested, are you not conflicted a bit? Like maybe stay away from getting their property, because then questions are going to come around. What was your intention to getting this person behind bars beyond just caring about the rule of law? But also you're the first one to quickly go purchase the property of this person as soon as they're behind bars. I don't know what that means to you, but it sounds a bit weird to me. Godfrey, you are in Senton. What are your thoughts? Hi.
Clement, how are you?
Chop. Go ahead, brother.
My brother, I feel your sentiment. I would not be really comfortable to have someone like Paul Osullivan and being given types of positions that he has occupied in our country. First of all, it is explicitly wrong for someone like Paul Osullivan to be appointed as head of security of AXA. AXA forms part of the national key points. So I don't understand at what capacity or what kind of credentials does any person need to be occupying that kind of a seat. Also, being a foreigner, I feel like our security cluster is reactive than being a proactive way of doing things. There is no way a person can be occupying that kind of a position. And the generals are only questioning now as to who he is. Point number one, who funds Paul Osullivan's software that he has that can be able to investigate any person at the level where he can? Paul Osullivan, he's a civilian. He has not been given a top clearance, a secret service, or any form of such in this country. So who gave him the right to investigate, especially the generals? It does not make sense. And it is dangerous for us to have a foreigner to have that kind of power in this country. When he bought the house for 15 million rand of Rodovan Krejcir, where did he get the money? Who gave him that money?
Godfrey, these questions are really important. They're really important. Thank you for your call in Senton. I see, in fact, it wasn't the Ahmad Kathrada Foundation. It's the Helen Suzman Foundation. And in fact, just to give you some context there, the Helen Suzman Foundation dismissed Paul Osullivan's claim that he funded its legal efforts for former IPID head Robert McBride. Remember, this is a claim that Paul Osullivan made, that he financially backed the Helen Suzman's Foundation's legal efforts to support the former IPID head Robert McBride, which isn't far-fetched if you think about it, because they were good buddies with Robert McBride. But the Helen Suzman Foundation has since said no, he didn't really fund that legal effort. But what they confirmed is that Osullivan did give them 100,000 rand donation in 2019. But they said that it was general and not linked to any case. Clearly, this man thinks that maybe that 100,000 was actually the one that's linked to the case and was supposed to help the foundation in its efforts to fight that case in support of Robert McBride. More of your calls and WhatsApps after the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. And I do want to know if there are specific countries you would never visit because of the political situation. I'm getting some voice notes and tweets and WhatsApps. People are mentioning Dubai. Some people are mentioning Israel. Some people are mentioning the United States of America. What is the one country that, or maybe you have actually visited a country where there is just political turmoil, the political situation is quite tumultuous, and you had a good experience, or maybe not a good experience? Please, I'd like to hear your experiences.
Your voice.
Your station.
Your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela
On 702.
24 minutes before 10 o'clock. Nhlanhla, I'll start with your call in a minute. Let's go to more of your WhatsApp voice notes on 072-702-1702.
Good morning, Clement. Clement, I do consider the countries that I visit. For example, I can't visit Israel. No matter how someone can sell it to me, I will never, ever visit Israel. And I'm even, having problem when I talk to some Christian community, being a Christian. that I don't understand. Are they naive enough to understand that that country of Israel there was formed in 1948, and this perpetuate going to Israel and believing that is the one in the Bible, and it's very surprising to me. So I can't visit Israel, and then I'm surprised this guy was visiting South Africa under the apartheid government. It means that he has validated apartheid, and he actually liked what was happening in South Africa. Walter in Pretoria.
Good morning, Clement. I hope you're well. I would never see myself going to America. That place scares me to death. I can't imagine just walking innocently and someone decides today I'm going to play with a gun and shoots me. I mean, yeah, that for me is the scariest place in the world. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, that's really a real fear. And I mean, that's just political violence, right? Because you know what the numbers look like in America, especially if you're someone of color. And then there's also concerns about ICE. Like ICE agents they've been in Minnesota, but they're going to be, and some are in other states. So I know of friends who live in America who are South African, who are actually concerned, One of them is now, officially a citizen in America. Another one has recently just gone there about a couple of months ago to start work. They just don't know what's going to happen the next day when they wake up, because the president of the US may just decide to take a decision that affects them. So, yeah, at least you're thinking about a holiday and not wanting to go there. Spare thought for some people whose livelihoods are dependent on them being there. They're there to work, and they just don't know if they'll ever have a job the next day, because Trump could decide anything, anytime.
Hi, Clement. Letabo here from Centurion. I definitely consider the political situation before I decide to spend my money in a country. There are certain countries that I know I will definitely not visit. Israel is one of them. Dubai is one of them. I can lay over in Dubai, but I will never go and visit because of what's happening. I'm never going to the US until Trump is out. So, yes, if I learn about political instability or a stance that a country has taken, then I use my free will to not visit until things change. I am not about to spend my hard-earned money on a country that infringes on the rights of others.
Yeah, and look, it's of course your choice on where you want to spend your money. But what I know for sure is that even during apartheid here, there are people who chose not to come to this country. Especially those who really were not happy with the political situation on the ground, who were staunch anti-racists, which is what Paul Osullivan claims to be, right? I mean, that's a strong adjective to use, no? That's quite a strong word to use. Staunch anti-racist? I mean, staunch anti-racists, I'm sure we're taking different positions in the 80s or the 70s at the height of apartheid here. They didn't think, I'm a staunch anti-racist, but let me go and spend my money on that country that is so racist against black people. On the WhatsApp line, Anonymous says, Clement, Osullivan bought that house, Rodavan Krecha, at next to nothing, as the case is with distressed sales of property. The house became virtually unsellable because of the clout it was under at the time. He has now put it on the market again as a form of distancing himself from the backlash it has brought him. If you spend your life impressing yourself as a self-designed corruption buster, optics do matter when we hold your integrity to the light, like when we check the money. I agree with that, which is why I'm saying I find it suspicious that you are going to be part of investigations against Clement, and as soon as Clement gets to jail, and thank you for your efforts for that, but as soon as Clement gets to jail, and guess who buys Clement's house? At, as this listener claims, next to nothing. 15 million rand mansion in Bedford View. Who buys it? The same person who helped investigators put me in jail I mean, find another house. Optics do matter. You don't want people to think, oh, did he have other ulterior motives? Whether the person who's in jail was corrupt or not and deserves to be there. What are you doing? Semi, you're in Centurion. Hi.
Good morning, Clement. You know, so Osullivan is a dishonest person. He claims he didn't know that there was apartheid in South Africa, that black people are being oppressed. But he was friends with the people within government, and one of the people who wrote the letter pleading for him to be granted immigration. Hello?
Yeah, we're listening.
They said that he will be of great use to the white community. And then he claimed that no, he himself wasn't holding this stance that he will be of great use to the white community. But if you are friends with people in government, Clement, how then are you going to say that you didn't know what was happening in that country? I mean, say like if you are friends with say like Donald Trump, you will not claim to say no, I don't know what's happening in America. You will know because you are friends with people in government. So the guy is just saying he came there, he went to that commission thinking that no.
Oh, did we just lose that call? Okay, it just dropped there. But I think we got the essence of it. You believe that he's lying. He must have known about what was happening in South Africa at the time. More of your WhatsApps.
Hi, this is Mo. Look, I listened to the interrogation yesterday. I think the first thing is we must not allow the politicians to think for us. Currently, the media narrative is picking up where the politicians in that room went with Paul Osullivan. And to be quite honest, I'm disappointed in how they handled themselves. They have actually put Paul Osullivan on trial. They have asked him all sorts of questions, and it sounded very much like they were trying to discredit him. Now, it's one thing to say, I don't like the guy for what he stands for, or for the fact that he didn't want to come to this committee. But I think they wasted 3/4 of the day trying to interrogate and discredit Paul Osullivan rather than allow him to lead evidence and help them with the inquiry. Thank you.
So what I'm looking forward to is when Brown Mkhwanazi appears. I wonder if you're going to have the same approach. Like, I wonder if you're going to criticize members of parliament and say they're treating him like it's a kangaroo court. So let's be consistent and fair. I take your point. In fact, I interviewed the chair of that ad hoc committee last night on SABC, and I asked him, but have you guys actually afforded him the respect? Right? I've asked him that because Paul Osullivan believes he's not being respected. He believes he's just being interrogated and not given a chance to really tell his side of the story. So I have asked that because it's a concern he's raised. But what I'm saying is, and if history is anything to go by, we are very selective with our expectations of how Nhlanhla or the ad hoc committee must do its work. So when Brown Mkhwanazi appears, which is going to be soon, and he is being asked these questions also about his background and that may be antagonistic, I wonder if you will also send a voice note and say, I think he's being treated unfairly. The MPs are unfair. I wonder.
Morning, Clement. I feel like if you compare the quality of interrogation in Nhlanhla versus the ad hoc, you'd notice a very distinct distinction between the two. Nhlanhla is more direct, thorough, incisive. Why? I think the parliamentarians, I don't know if they're grandstanding or trying to outshine one another. They often waste critical time on very flimsy issues that sidetrack them instead of, Dudley James just wants to waste time on issues that are not necessary. Malema, as much as his intervention is often welcomed, but I think the parliamentarians often just get easily sidetracked. I'll wait for Osullivan when he appears at Nhlanhla. I think there we can get more from him. Prince, in Bedfordview.
Yeah, Prince, I'm not sure if, is he meant to be at the Nhlanhla Commission? I don't know if he's on the list of witnesses there. I doubt it, highly doubt it, because remember how he ended up being mentioned was at the ad hoc committee. and he was being mentioned by people who are appearing before the Ad Hoc Committee. He wasn't implicated at the Nhlanhla Commission, if I've got that correctly. But yeah, Prince, the Ad Hoc Committee is a political process. Of course, members of parliament are going to grandstand in that process, but that doesn't mean that then the work that they do is dismissed. It's still important work. In fact, we have had a conversation on the open line before about which of the two, Nhlanhla and the Ad Hoc Committee, should be given more priority. And the argument at the time was that Nhlanhla, for instance, they've got capacity to investigate. So which is why, the witnesses are always crumbling there, because there's a strong legal team behind the evidence leaders at the Nhlanhla Commission. So by the time you are there, you better have your story checked. Whereas at the Ad Hoc Committee, of course, members of parliament will grandstand, which is why you would see certain political party like remember Julius wasn't there when Shadrach appeared. Yesterday was the DA member of parliament Glenys Brettenbach there yesterday? I think she may have left earlier yesterday. But what I'm saying is there are certain political dynamics you pick up. Like pick up the tone of the DA or the tone of the ANC, the tone of the EFF when they question certain witnesses. All of that matters. But that's because it's a political process. So there's nothing we can do about it. It's always going to be about politics. They're always going to find an opportunity to grandstand. You and I must just pick up what we think is interesting and what we think somehow is more insightful in as far as the role of the people who appear there is concerned. Some more WhatsApps on 072 702 1702.
Morning, Clement. One thing we mustn't forget, and I'm not protecting or coming up for Paul Osullivan. Paul Osullivan was appointed by the police, declared competent to do the training. He didn't appoint himself. The training material was accredited by the police for him to use in the training. He didn't force it down. It was accredited by the police. So now coming to Paul Sullivan and say that he hasn't got a degree, really? Do you need a costume, trousers to swim? Can't you swim without it? Was it really required that he had a university degree to give the training? He was accredited by the SABs. So that's the facts. Let's don't forget the facts. CEO Pretoria.
Good morning, Clement and team. It's Modise here. Look, the issue of qualifications for Paul Osullivan, I think I can believe that he might have been appointed without one. I worked for a parastatal some years ago, and you would find people calling themselves engineers without an engineering degree, being white. And it was strange to me, and I thought it was only in that parastatal, but apparently in some of these parastatals, back in the days, if you had some core competence or whatever that is, degrees never mattered, but I think they mattered for the black folk. Cheers.
Yeah, which would really be so fascinating, hey? But again, that will also tell you a lot about the history of this country, even before and after the transition, what we were still stuck with. I think Julius today, Malema, is going to ask that question because he's the one last night who said we need to find that job advert from AXA. Like, how do you hold such a senior executive and they didn't require even a diploma or an equivalent of a degree? I mean, surely it can't be just because of the color of your skin and then they think you're competent enough to do the work. There's no way that was the case. So I'd like to see the job advert. What was the requirement in terms of qualifications? What was the requirement in terms of work experience?
Clement, I mean, come on. So many things can be true at the same time. Paul Osullivan could be useful as a crime buster and have contributed to the downfall of Jackie Selebi, the nabbing of Radovan Krejcir, etc., etc., etc. But he could also be an agent with an agenda that is not as virtuous as many of these callers are claiming. So let's not be naive. Let's let the Ad Hoc Committee investigate his background and see what his real motives are, no matter what the outcome of that work that he does. The motives are important. It's important to know whether or not this man really has our country's best interests at heart. Spiwe in Johannesburg.
Yeah. And that's what's important to me. Does he have the country's interests at heart, the best interest of this country at heart? Isn't it fascinating how, like, there are people who feel, yes, this man was treated unfairly by the committee. But if you watch the committee yesterday, haven't they treated most of their witnesses like that? Like, have they not really gone to great lengths to try and understand, where have you been? And by the way, the reason it took so long, I think, with Paul Osullivan is because he didn't provide even a CV. He didn't provide even a summary of who he is, where he comes from, when he arrived in the country. None of that. Whereas with other witnesses, what makes it easier is already they've got a CV. Or at the very least, already they've got some summary of who Cedric Nkabinde is and where Cedric Nkabinde has worked, or Khumutso Pahlani, or General Mkhwanazi. Huh? Isn't that interesting, though, that there are certain people who suddenly think, oh no, they're being unfair on Paul Osullivan. Why must we care about what happened in the past? Have you had the same issues with other witnesses? Because I've raised how unfair some of the MPs have been to other witnesses. We've had this debate before on the open line. But no, it's Paul now who comes. And some people are changing tack, which is why I'm saying I'm looking forward to Brown Mokhotzi's testimony. And I know members of parliament are going to be very hard on him, probably more harder than they are on Paul Osullivan. And I'm looking forward to getting your WhatsApp voice notes complaining about the unfairness of members of parliament towards Brown Mokhotzi. Let's see.
Hi guys, Andre here. I just think everybody always looks at what degree do you have or what have you studied. I mean, back in the day, I know accountants that didn't even study accounting. It was better accountants than accountants that studied accounting. So I think it's what you want to do and what you want to achieve. I mean, how do you study to become a private investigator? It's something that you want to do. You want to find perpetrators. You want to get to the bottom and solve the riddles. I think it's a mindset. You want to do what you want to do. It doesn't matter what you study. If you study something just to have a salary and just go sit in an office and do your job and get a salary at the end of the month, then your studying didn't matter at all. I think you've got to, if you can put your mind to something, it doesn't matter if you study, you can do it. Like there's lots of entrepreneurs that's running great businesses that didn't study. So I don't think people have to look. You have to look into what guy studied or degree he has. It's what insight, what drives you. Anyway, have a good day. Thanks for the good show. Cheers.
Yo, guys, it must have been nice back in the day, hey? You can be an accountant, but you didn't study accounting. You can hold an executive position at a national key point without security clearance or a qualification that is an equivalent of a diploma or degree. That's so interesting. But also, the very same people that are now saying qualifications don't matter are always calling to complain about certain ministers who hold positions that they're not really qualified for, like a minister of health who has never even worked in the health industry. Or better yet, how many of you complained about Jacob Zuma, who only has, Standard 2? Oh, how can we have a president? I mean, you've just said now, as long as you put your mind to it, right? Jacob Zuma put his mind to it. In fact, he was a very good politician. Anybody who knows him, whether you corruption allegations and something else, you can accuse him of that. I'm not talking about any of that or how he's done governance. I'm talking about politics. He understood politics, so he put his mind to it. And yet, there are some of you that still complain. How dare we have a president who runs government who only has standard 2? But oh no, there's Paul Osullivan now, and let's not care about qualifications. It doesn't matter anymore. Wenzakalan?